Message to civil engineers. Specifically here, I'm speaking to the institution of civil engineers if you're a member. I believe that an engineer has a duty to tell the truth. That if you are sitting in a meeting and everyone believes something to be true and you believe it to be incorrect, you have a duty to speak out and say what's wrong. You can't, without fear or favour, you must be able to stand up and speak the truth as you see it at that meeting, in front of all those people, without fear of humiliation. I had a meeting where that happened when at the beginning of my career. This is why this is so important. There's a duty that the engineer mustn't be afraid to speak out, because this is what happens when you don't. Very early on in my career, I found myself in charge of traffic management for a big project, A428, Madinley, Cambridge. A really important intersection of the A14 and the M11 there. And I'd done the traffic management, and I'd made a mistake. I thought I'd written this, and I had, but I'd written it in such a way that the contractor had read it and priced it on closing it in the morning. Okay? Closing it down slamming it down to a single lane, and allowing that single lane to run through the morning rush hour. Okay? I'm sitting in the meeting, and when he said that, I went, oh, fucking hell. Right? That's not right. And I didn't speak. We were out on site. We started out on site. I destroyed the entire infrastructure of North Cambridgeshire for an entire morning as it ground to a halt. We had to take the traffic management off, and we had to have a meeting, at which point we had to talk about it. And everyone was brilliant. They really understood their position, what had happened. I managed to bluff it out that it was more, because it was right, it'd just been read wrong. I managed to find some weasel out of it and got myself, so I kept on the job, and it was all good, right? Did I learn a lesson there, though? Did I learn a lesson? You must speak out. You must place on record. Now, if then that we'd slammed it to a halt, I'd have said, yeah, well, I told you at the meeting we weren't supposed to do that. That was an error. Yeah, easy. So duty on the engineer. Now, the Portland Cement Association, 1993, imposes a duty on the engineer. When I discovered that it imposes that duty on, I have to take it seriously. I am reporting to the Institutional Civil Engineers that I've looked at this document as instructed. Yeah, so the document clearly says it's for me to assess whether the information is useful and important. I take full liability for use of the information in that document. Yeah, so if I'm doing so, I need to know where it's come from, the referencing, and it's not referenced. So therefore, I need to tell my manager that that's the case, as a duty. And I did that at a presentation in 2008 as a competition entry, speaking directly to directors of the Institute of Civil Engineers as a presentation, and speaking to them afterwards, expressing my concerns. Silence. Nothing. They didn't care. They didn't give a shit. And I was disgusted with the, at that point I was on course. I got a first for my BEng. I've been 7 years in a consultant's office. I was on course for chartered. No problem at all. And then I went, fuck off, grey suits, you liars. So I just went into contracting. But I learned a great deal, and I had a great career and a great life. So I'm happy. Now I come back to my duty, and now I've done my duty. I have placed on the desk of the director, the president's office of the Institution of Civil Engineers, about Victor Lewe, with all the information that I now know about him concerning nuclear containment and a potential flaw in the risk assessment of nuclear containment at Hinkley Point B and at Trowse Funnies. I've offered them some technical notes on Lewe that may be relevant to their risk assessment process for nuclear containment, from nuclear power plant decommissioning. So it's fucking important. Right? Now, I've also uncovered that documents have been stolen. So the institution have manipulated the scholarly record, have removed 2 documents that I referenced in 2008 from the shelves and from the catalogue. And I've got stone cold evidence that proves they were there in 2008, and so they've been removed. So I can prove to you, Institution of Civil Engineers, that your institution is manipulating the scholarly record for commercial gain for the Portland Cement Association. Because while those tables continue to be used, you're using 20% more concrete in the circular concrete tanks than you need to. And I did a calculation with Grok a while back, and it was like 40 Hoover dams worth of concrete. It's something insane amount of concrete that's been used. And when you think about the amount of CO2 that's released by concrete, and you say that's a problem, yeah, madness is the world that you're living in, engineers. Madness, because you've allowed your institution to classify your history. So in that single tiny thread that I've placed in front of you now, regional directors of the Institution of Civil Engineers, I'm saying to you, your institution, those bunch of lying fucking wankers, right? Not engineers, they're the handmaidens of physics. Yeah, they're not engineers. You're engineers, they're not. Because you wouldn't allow them to manipulate the scholarly record. You would stand at death and say, no, we can't manipulate the scholarly record. We cannot classify the history of civil engineering. That would be insane. And yet that's what's happened. So I'm just asking you to wake up. And you demand ask this question, investigate, where are those library documents? I want to see them. I want to see that 1965 PCA. I want to see what's in it that you're hiding that's so precious. Because I don't know what it is. But I know it was there, and I want to see it. And so should you, because the duty is imposed on you as well. You are using the PCA 93. There is a duty imposed on you to check the references, and you ain't. So none of you are engineers until you change this, and then you might be engineers again. Yeah, I've placed a demand to the civil engineers, right, that they make me president. Right? Let me sort this out. I know what to do. Everything is fine, right? We just need to adjust the foundation. There is a blunder at the foundation. There are no units on Big G. It's a complex Reynolds number. Simple as that. Quantum is fixed. Quantum time equals 0. It's all engineering. Welcome to the future. Please do your duty. Fade out.